later than expected. But she didn't mind. The delay had given her more time with Dr. Ryan Martinez. She found herself thinking about the charming cardiologist from their hospital's research division, nearly 8 years her junior, whose attention had been both flattering and intoxicating. As the plane lifted off from LaGuardia, Sarah's thoughts gradually shifted from Ryan to her husband David and their daughter Jessica waiting back home in Chicago. Despite Ryan's charm and the excitement he brought into her routine life, there were sacred spaces in her heart that belonged exclusively to her family. Sarah looked forward to seeing them, especially now that she felt satisfied. She was self-aware enough to know her moods, and she planned to be particularly loving toward David when she returned. Her slight smile suggested she felt she had managed to balance both worlds perfectly. When Sarah arrived home to their Lincoln Park townhouse, she noticed David's Tesla was missing from their garage, an unusual sight that immediately shifted her mood. She had hoped David would be there to greet her after her trip to New York, but the house felt empty. While wondering where David and Jessica might be, Sarah suddenly remembered that her phone had been on silent since dinner. Her mind had been so occupied that she hadn't even noticed the lack of calls. She decided to check her messages, returning to reality once again. David congratulated himself on having executed what he believed was a brilliant plan to surprise his wife. He had known about Sarah's planned medical conference in New York for months. She attended these specialized cardiac surgery symposiums twice a year, and as fate would have it, this conference fell on their 15th wedding anniversary. A few weeks earlier, David had been meeting with a potential client, Marcus Rivera, about investing in his Manhattan restaurant group. After the business discussions concluded and David felt comfortable with Marcus, he shared an idea that had been forming in his mind. Marcus, on the 15th of next month, it's our anniversary. My wife will be attending a medical conference in downtown Manhattan. I'd like to surprise her with a romantic dinner at your flagship restaurant. To make it special, I've purchased a diamond bracelet that I'd like to present to her during the meal. I have the perfect solution, Marcus said enthusiastically. We're actually planning to shoot promotional footage at our Midtown location next week for our website. We could arrange for our videographer to be there during your wife's dinner. We'll tell her it's for restaurant marketing and capture her reaction to your gift. You could watch it live via video call. That sounds intriguing, David replied, though he looked puzzled. But why wouldn't I just go to New York myself to give it to her? I've suggested that in the past, David explained. But Sarah insists she's too busy with conference obligations to spend time with me. She says she has working dinners with colleagues and needs to rest for the next day's surgical presentations. I have client meetings here in Chicago, and traveling that distance just to be ignored seems counterproductive. Here's the plan, David continued, warming to the concept. Your videographer captures the moment when she receives the bracelet, and I watch it live with our families. I'd love to see Sarah's surprised expression when she opens the jewelry box. I'll connect you with our media team, Marcus replied. They'll handle everything professionally and discreetly. David had arranged for catering to be delivered to his Lincoln Park home for a small anniversary celebration. He invited his parents, Sarah's parents, his brother and sister-in-law, and Sarah's younger sister Jennifer. They all expected to witness Sarah's surprise reaction to the anniversary gift in real time. David's 14-year-old daughter Jessica was also there with her best friend Emma, whose older sister Kate had driven them over. David had everything set up so they could watch the video feed on their large living room television. The videographer will position himself discreetly near Sarah's table under the pretense of filming restaurant ambience for their promotional materials, David explained with an excited smile. He'll transmit the video to us live through a secure connection. The waiter will deliver the wrapped gift after Sarah and her colleague Dr. Claire order their meals. We'll see Sarah's reaction in real time. This will be the most memorable anniversary ever, despite the distance between us. "Who's that man with Mom?" Jessica asked as Sarah came into view, walking hand in hand with a handsome young man. "Didn't you say she would be with Dr. Claire Martinez from the hospital?" "I don't know who he is," David admitted, his smile faltering slightly. "He appears to be a colleague from the conference." Sarah's father simply grunted disapprovingly at David's explanation. As the couple took their seats at the intimate corner table, everyone gathered around David's television could clearly hear their conversation through the professional audio equipment. "It's wonderful that your husband is paying for our dinner this evening," the unknown man remarked with a confident grin. "I'll do my best to make this anniversary unforgettable for you. It will be even better than your honeymoon." "Then you'd better order the steak," Sarah replied with a playful smile. "You'll need your energy. My honeymoon was quite memorable." "Really?" the man asked with interest. "Did you have other experiences then? Or did your husband actually satisfy you properly?" "David did wonderfully. Thank you for asking," Sarah replied smoothly. "You're the only other man I've been with in the past 15 years. Aside from David, of course. Fortunately for me, he's been less attentive lately. The good news is that you're going to give me a much better 15th anniversary tonight than most women receive." "Maybe we should turn this off," Sarah's sister Jennifer suggested nervously. "This isn't fair to Sarah. She has no idea we're watching and listening." "Why don't you stop the feed, David? Don't we want to see Sarah's reaction when she receives her bracelet?" asked David, his face now quite red but his determination unwavering. Let's see how this plays out," David insisted, though his voice had become strained. While the couple was ordering, everyone heard Sarah address her companion as Ryan. As their waiter departed with the menus, another server appeared with an elegantly wrapped package. "Look, David must have sent me an anniversary gift," Sarah exclaimed with delight, carefully unwrapping the package. "Isn't it beautiful?" Sarah asked, admiring the diamond bracelet. "Could you help me put it on?" "Of course, just extend your wrist," Ryan said, carefully fastening the bracelet. After completing the task, he briefly caressed her hand. "Your husband is so romantic. You're fortunate to have such a thoughtful man," commented an elderly woman at a nearby table. "True on both counts," Ryan agreed with a knowing smile. "She has a romantic husband and an attentive companion." Sarah gave Ryan a sharp look, but the older woman simply laughed at his comment. "I gave you something precious last night too," Ryan said quietly, leaning closer to Sarah. "Though I think this bracelet is more appropriate for public display." "That's the difference between a husband and a lover," Sarah said with a sultry smile. "Husbands give us jewelry, and lovers give us fulfillment." "I'm sorry, but I can't continue this," the videographer whispered as he turned off his equipment. "I should have stopped earlier, but I was so shocked that I froze. I'm truly sorry it turned out this way. I'll delete everything from my equipment immediately. I have to leave." The television screen went dark, and everyone sat in stunned silence. Jessica's friend Emma was the first to speak. "It's getting late. Kate's waiting in the car to drive us home. See you at school tomorrow, Jess." "If I even go," Jessica replied, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, can I stay at Emma's house tonight? I need to be with my friends right now." "Of course, honey. I understand completely. We'll talk tomorrow. Have Kate drive safely," David said, his voice barely audible due to the dryness in his throat. "I don't know what to say," Sarah's mother began hesitantly. "I think we may have misunderstood what was happening. Sarah loves you, David, and would do anything for Jessica. Please don't make any hasty decisions." David's other guests echoed these sentiments as they quietly discussed the situation. After a few more minutes of subdued conversation, David made his decision. I need some time to think. Everyone, please see yourselves out and give me space to be alone and consider my options. After everyone had left, David retrieved his suitcase and began packing his belongings. Sarah was surprised by the number of messages and missed calls she discovered when she activated her phone the following morning. As she reviewed the messages, her heart sank. Her sister Jennifer and mother demanded to know who Ryan was and why she had been so intimate with him. They insisted she had broken David's heart and that Jessica was devastated. Her mother and sister had sent her at least a dozen messages each. Sarah checked for any messages from David but found none. How had her family discovered Ryan, and what exactly did they know? Where were David and Jessica? How could she escape from this predicament? She needed to determine precisely what David knew versus what he merely suspected. Mother, it's Sarah. I forgot I had silenced my phone last night. Sarah began as calmly as possible. I see you tried to reach me. Is something wrong? Only if you consider losing your husband, alienating and embarrassing your daughter, disgracing your parents, and behaving like an adulteress to be wrong. Her mother responded angrily. I'm assuming it doesn't bother you much, considering you seem to be enjoying that diamond bracelet from your lover. David gave me a diamond bracelet for our anniversary, Sarah countered. Why would this upset you? Your father and I have seen enough movies to understand what your companion meant when he said he had given you something precious, Sarah's direct mother replied. Mother, what makes you think I would do such a thing? Why do you believe I have a lover? Sarah asked, fear knotting her stomach. Don't play games with me. I'm not foolish, her mother said firmly. David arranged for us to watch you receive his 15th anniversary present at the restaurant. He had reserved a table for you and your colleague. I believe her name was Dr. Claire. We witnessed this entire sordid affair. Your husband treats you like a queen, and you show him no respect. Husbands give jewelry, and lovers give fulfillment. I believe you said. You heard me say that? Asked a shocked Sarah. How is that possible? David hired a professional videographer who was supposedly filming restaurant promotional material. He wanted us to see how happy you would be with his gift. We were all going to call and congratulate you on your anniversary, her mother said sadly. It appears this might be your last anniversary with David. Perhaps you'll celebrate future ones with your young doctor friend. Mother, you know I love David. That other man means nothing to me. It was just a diversion. These medical conferences can be quite tedious, Sarah insisted desperately. Oh, that changes everything, her mother replied sarcastically. David will feel much better knowing that his wife isn't truly an adulteress, just bored. I assume you forgot to pack your medical journals. Mom, there's no point in name-calling. How can I convince David that he's the only man I love? You haven't even convinced me, so I'd say you have considerable work ahead of you, her mother replied. Watching you with that man was the most disturbing thing I've ever witnessed. I seriously doubt David found it any more pleasant. After speaking with her mother, Sarah contemplated her situation. Her entire family had seen and heard everything she and Ryan had discussed at dinner. Recalling her conversation with Ryan, Sarah realized how dire her circumstances were. She decided to call Jessica. Jessica, where are you? Sarah asked when her daughter answered. I'm with Emma. She's trying to comfort me because my family is falling apart. Sarah's daughter replied coldly. We're not falling apart. Please come home so we can discuss this. Where is your father? Sarah asked uncertainly. He drove to the family cabin at Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, Jessica answered. I don't think he wants to see you. He was so excited last night when he invited everyone to watch you receive your gift. You completely crushed him when you appeared with your lover instead of Dr. Claire. Please come home, Sarah repeated, trying to formulate what she could say to David to earn his forgiveness. After ending her conversation with Jessica, Sarah began examining the house. She noticed that a laptop and several filing cabinets were missing from David's home office. The walk-in closet in their master bedroom was completely empty, as barren as their marriage now felt. Sarah fought back tears as she wandered through the townhouse, cataloging missing items. David hadn't taken a single photograph of her. This detail seemed particularly devastating. Seeking distraction from her crumbling marriage, Sarah began preparing dinner for Jessica. By the time Jessica returned home with Emma's older sister Kate, she had managed to create a modest meal. Jessica remained sullen and only spoke when asked direct questions, keeping her answers brief. Sarah admitted to herself that her daughter had every right to be angry, but she hoped that time might soften, if not eliminate, the hostility. The next morning at dawn, Sarah drove the 2 hours to their Lake Geneva cabin to find David slumped uncomfortably on the small couch, unconscious and surrounded by empty beer bottles. "David, honey, we need to talk. Please wake up," Sarah said gently. David slowly opened his eyes and groaned. He gradually stood and, without saying a word, headed to the bathroom. Sarah decided to prepare coffee while waiting for her husband to return. A few minutes later, David, refreshed from his shower, returned to the kitchen, and Sarah placed a mug before him. Sarah hoped David would initiate their difficult conversation, but that hope quickly faded. It was obvious that David had no intention of speaking first. "David, I'm sorry about what happened. I love the bracelet. It was a wonderful gift that I'll always treasure. I wish I had known you were sharing the moment with our family. It would have been helpful if you had mentioned your plan," Sarah said, hoping to open dialogue. "You," was all David managed to say, his anger evident at Sarah's attempt to make him appear at fault. Sarah was surprised and hurt by David's response. In all their years of marriage, he had never spoken to her disrespectfully. This was clear evidence of the pain she had caused him. "That won't help," Sarah responded calmly. "Tell me what I should do to fix this. You're the only man I've ever loved. That hasn't changed. We can work through this together. Tell me exactly what problem you want to solve," David said with controlled anger. "The problem is that I surprised you with an anniversary gift at a nice restaurant where I arranged professional filming. The problem is that Marcus's videographer agreed to capture your reaction. The problem is that I mistakenly thought you would appreciate this gesture. Explain to me what the real problem is." "You know what the problem is," Sarah insisted. "Last night, you saw me with Ryan at the restaurant. I know you dine with medical colleagues occasionally. Why would that be problematic?" David asked. "You know perfectly well why this is a problem. I told you I was having dinner with Dr. Qley, but I was actually with Ryan. You heard our conversation and discovered we had been intimate. This is the problem we need to address," Sarah admitted, blushing. Realizing she couldn't go on the offensive in her current situation, she added, "Just to clarify, is the problem that your family overheard our conversation, or that I was unfaithful?" "The problem is my behavior," admitted Sarah, her face flushing. "You were simply trying to be thoughtful on our anniversary. You did nothing wrong." "Good, we're making progress. Now tell me, why did you cheat on me? For how long? And with how many men?" David demanded. "Is Jessica my biological daughter? Should I be concerned about paternity?" David's harsh questions provoked Sarah's defensive response. "There's no need to be crude or offensive. Of course Jessica is your daughter. Ryan has been my only companion since we married. Your comments about multiple men and questioning Jessica's paternity are simply cruel." "I'm struggling to understand your logic," David countered. "You admit to adultery, but you want to limit the extent of your betrayal. You expect me to be polite and understanding, not to mention gullible, when you claim you've only had one affair. Are you proud that you haven't cheated more often? By the way, how long have you been involved with Ryan and how frequently? You forgot to mention these important details in your confession. This was the third conference where we spent time together, Sarah admitted, tears forming as she finally grasped the depth of David's anger and humiliation. Besides you, he's the only man I've been with since we married 15 years ago. So twice at each of 3 conferences, David calculated. Have you been together anywhere else? No, Sarah stated firmly. This has happened 6 times total, and I deeply regret it. I owe you an apology. Are you saying that a young man like Ryan was satisfied with just once per evening with someone as attractive as you? David asked. He never wanted you more than once each night? Does it matter? Asked a discouraged Sarah. We were probably together multiple times each evening. Now for the crucial question, David announced. Why did you sleep with another man? Was intimacy with me so unsatisfying, so routine, so inadequate that you needed to find a younger, more exciting lover? Of course not. I was bored, and he pursued me persistently. I proved weak. It's not about you or our relationship. It's my vanity, perhaps a midlife crisis. He doesn't mean anything to me, I swear, Sarah explained. So you're saying you had relations with a man who meant nothing to you? David repeated. Would you sleep with Dr. Peterson, that cardiologist who wears those ridiculous bow ties? Absolutely not. I barely know him professionally, and I find him repulsive, Sarah defended herself. But you just told me you sleep with men you don't love and who mean nothing to you. Peterson fits that description. So why not him? David pressed. I didn't say I sleep with every man who means nothing to me, Sarah explained, frustrated. I was with Ryan because he's attractive, sophisticated, and successful. He was pursuing me. So you're saying you'll only cheat on me with handsome, successful men who pursue you? Aside from avoiding a few such men, you're a faithful wife. David questioned sarcastically. If you don't love the man you're intimate with, how can you claim to love me? I'm telling you I made a terrible mistake, and it will never happen again, Sarah said emotionally. I love you, not Ryan. How can I believe that? David asked quietly. At our wedding and several times since, you promised to be faithful. You're a beautiful woman. Attractive, successful men will always pursue you. I can't trust you anymore. I can't even provide the excitement you apparently crave. Don't ever think that way, David. I love being intimate with you. It's special and makes me feel cherished, Sarah replied. How did Ryan make you feel that kept you returning to him? David asked softly. Reckless, different, not like a mother or wife. It was the wrongness that was addictive, not love, Sarah admitted, clearly embarrassed. What did you do with him? David asked quietly. What does it matter? I love only you, Sarah protested, obviously uncomfortable. Here's what I'm thinking about, David said. You stand there telling me you love me, not him, but you were willing to be intimate with him in ways you haven't with me in years. It's difficult to accept that you would do more for someone who means nothing to you than for the person you supposedly love. You haven't been affectionate in that way for a long time. I wasn't necessarily opposed to it. I thought you'd lost interest. What married man wouldn't want affection from his wife, especially when she's giving it to others? David recalled painfully. You told me on our honeymoon that I would be the only man you'd ever love. You and Ryan must have found my situation quite amusing. That's not true. He never discussed you. I would never have allowed that, Sarah insisted. You seem to have forgotten that I heard several minutes of your conversation. He insulted me multiple times, and you participated. Remember how I had slowed down? How he would give you a better 15th anniversary than most wives receive? You didn't object, did you? Why are we wasting time here? David suddenly demanded. You've found someone new. I accept that. You should too. Why pretend you want to remain married? It's obvious you weren't happy being my wife, and our intimate life was clearly inadequate. You're beautiful, successful, and intelligent, while I apparently bring nothing valuable to the relationship. It was only a matter of time before you looked for something better. Congratulations, you found it. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. David, we can't let this conversation end so badly. We need to discuss everything and find a path forward, Sarah pleaded through tears. Your lawyer can speak with my lawyer. It's over between us, Sarah. I'm filing for divorce. You've left me no choice. That day, Sarah went to work at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but was confronted in the physician's lounge by an angry Dr. Claire Martinez. Why did David ask me about accompanying you to New York for the cardiac symposium? You know perfectly well I stopped attending after you decided to spend your evenings with that research fellow from our cardiology department. I don't appreciate being used as cover for your infidelity. David called you? What did you tell him? Sarah asked dejectedly. The truth. I didn't attend the last 2 conferences. I was under the impression you had told him we were sharing accommodations and attending sessions together. I don't like being used as your alibi. That won't be a problem anymore. David learned everything on this trip. I think he's going to divorce me, Sarah admitted. What other outcome did you expect? Claire demanded. No decent man could accept this level of disrespect. I was too selfish and foolish to consider that David might discover this, Sarah answered honestly. He's moved out. Didn't you make a choice when you started sleeping with that research fellow? Claire asked, her tone softening slightly. I'm sorry you're losing David, but I warned you this would happen if you continued. It wasn't me who told him, if that's what you're wondering. I know, Claire. I owe you an apology. I abused our friendship. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I don't deserve a man like David. After discovering Sarah's infidelity, David took time off from Thompson Investment Group. He was determined to move all his belongings to the Wisconsin cabin before Sarah returned home. He didn't want to hear her reasons and excuses for cheating. He hated the thought of life without Sarah, but he knew he could never forgive her callous disregard for his feelings or her casual attitude toward loyalty and respect. Her unexpected visit the following morning simply revealed the enormous emotional chasm between them. She hadn't said anything that could help him forgive her betrayal. He scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney for the next day. The following day, as he prepared to leave his office for the meeting with the divorce lawyer, he received a new email from Sarah. He wondered whether he should read it or delete it. After internal debate, he opened the message. In her typical direct manner, Sarah addressed the situation head-on. He felt only despair when he read her words. David, I know I've really messed up this time. I was so foolish to think you would never find out, and that my actions would never hurt you. I was wrong. Lying and cheating destroy marriages, even when one partner doesn't know what's happening. You deserve so much better. I have never wanted anything in my life as much as I want your forgiveness, but I won't challenge any decisions you make regarding our marriage. I've lost my right to participate in your choices. I love you and wish you the best. You are a wonderful man, husband, and father. This is entirely my fault. I accept that truth, though I'm devastated that I've done this to us. David fought back tears as he read Sarah's confession and plea for forgiveness. It was characteristic of her to accept responsibility when she had time to reflect on the situation. She was a strong woman who demanded the best from herself and others. He felt empty and saw no reason to respond to the letter. He had nothing more to say. After that morning when Sarah visited David's cabin, her only information about David came through Jessica. On Friday afternoon, Jessica called Sarah to say she was spending the weekend at the lake with her father. David would drive her home Sunday evening. Sarah realized this would be her life going forward. She spent a miserable weekend contemplating how thoroughly she had destroyed her happiness. She had no idea how to correct her mistake or whether correction was even possible. Had she completely ruined her once happy marriage? Returning home Sunday evening, Jessica appeared quite somber. Dad has decided to divorce you. He can't live with someone who has lost all respect for him. I saw him cry several times this weekend. I've never seen that in my entire life. Do you understand how deeply you've hurt him? Your doctor boyfriend must be much better than Dad, Jessica said bitterly. He's not my boyfriend, and he's not better than your father in any way, Sarah replied, shocked. It was a huge mistake, and I deeply regret it. Your father is the finest man I've ever known. Forgive me and Dad for being skeptical, Jessica replied. This isn't the first time you've been with this man, is it? You've been deceiving us for years, haven't you? Jessica asked angrily. Sarah realized it was time to stop lying to her family. I was with him at 2 conferences before this recent one. It was wrong, and I apologize, Sarah confessed. Wrong? That's quite an understatement. Don't you think, Mom? Jessica objected angrily. You betrayed Dad in the worst possible way. Didn't you promise to be faithful when you married him? Did you have your fingers crossed, hoping it wouldn't count? I know you're angry with me, but not as angry as I am with myself. Your father is a wonderful man and an excellent father. You know that. What I did doesn't reflect poorly on him. I acted incredibly foolishly, Sarah admitted sadly. Whatever you say, Jessica stated and went to her room. When Sarah returned to work at the hospital, life resumed a semblance of normalcy. She and Jessica barely spoke to each other. Her surgical practice became her lifeline. Everything there remained professional, except for Dr. Claire's cold attitude toward her. She attended Jessica's school events but usually sat alone unless her mother accompanied her. These were the only occasions she saw David. He always sat as far from her as possible, and other parents quickly noticed this pattern. It soon became common knowledge that they were divorcing. Sarah periodically overheard fathers, both single and married, making inappropriate comments and suggestions. It was obvious that rumors of Sarah's infidelity had spread throughout their North Shore community. David threw himself into Thompson Investment Group. This was the silver lining of the entire catastrophe. The irony was that Sarah would receive half of their joint business assets. His lawyer suggested several strategies that could reduce Sarah's share, but David refused to consider them. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have anything to divide. I'm not going to deny facts. Sarah worked alongside me in building this practice and even contributed her medical expertise to help evaluate our healthcare investments when we first expanded the business, David insisted. Sarah was very surprised when her lawyer explained how generously David was treating her in the asset division. A few years earlier, when David was experiencing cash flow problems, the company had brought in a silent partner, Robert Chen, who now owned 1/3 of Thompson Investment Group. By ceding half of their joint assets to Sarah, David found himself in a potentially vulnerable position, controlling only 1/3 of the company. Tell David this is too generous, Sarah insisted to her lawyer. He was the one who devoted all his time and energy to the business. If he insists on giving me a share, tell him I'll accept 10% of what we own jointly. He should maintain control without potential disputes. David proved stubborn. When spring arrived, Sarah became a single woman again and the 3rd owner of Thompson Investment Group. She couldn't even convince David to speak with her by phone. He had completely eliminated her from his life. Jessica told Sarah she wanted to spend the summer between her 8th and 9th grade years at the lake cabin with her father. Sarah knew this was another attempt by Jessica to punish her, but she accepted that she had earned her daughter's contempt. David, for his part, was delighted. He developed plans to nearly double the cabin's size. Through one of his construction investment partnerships, he easily completed the expansion by late July. It was now a 3-bedroom lake house with each bedroom having its own bathroom and lake view. It was completely modernized and comfortable. The first weekend in August, David hosted an open house for friends and neighbors at Lake Geneva. All of Jessica's friends were invited, including Emma and her older sister Kate. One of Emma's cousins, whom David couldn't help but notice, had also come along. She had striking blonde features complemented by a modest 2-piece swimsuit. Throughout the day, David noticed this young woman stayed near him most of the time. She laughed at his jokes and flirted with him at every opportunity. "So, Dad, are you interested in Amanda?" Jessica asked when they were alone in the kitchen. "Of course not," David protested. "She can't be older than 23, and I haven't decided to start dating yet." "She's 25 and seems very interested in you," Jessica replied with a knowing smile. "She's been asking how long you've been single, your age, what you do for work. Everything women want to know about potential partners. I just met her today. Don't even mention the word marriage to me," David replied. "I tried that once, and it was enough. I'm not suggesting anything other than she seems interested. I wouldn't mind if you dated her. She's pretty nice, and you need someone to help you forget Mom. From what I can see, Amanda isn't in any hurry to get married. I think she's focused on her career right now, but that doesn't mean she doesn't enjoy male companionship." "Thanks for the insight," David said jokingly to his daughter. "This woman is too attractive to be interested in an old guy like me, but I appreciate your confidence in me." Sarah's surgical practice occupied the top 2 floors of a medical building in Chicago's Streeterville district. At the end of the same block was a popular Italian bistro. She used to have lunch there every Thursday with colleagues from the hospital. Due to her irregular surgical schedule, she often saw the same people dining at the same time. Sarah and her co-workers had become friendly with employees from several other companies in their building. One afternoon, the bistro was unusually crowded, and Sarah's group couldn't get a table. One of the employees from Morrison Marketing, located on the 2nd floor of her building, invited her group to join them at a large table. They quickly accepted the invitation. After everyone introduced themselves, conversation began flowing. One of the women on the marketing team was particularly attractive and very friendly. Sarah found herself enjoying the young woman's good humor and watched as the other ladies began teasing her. "We don't all have a successful guy with a beautiful house on Lake Geneva," the woman Sarah knew as Jennifer teased. "It must be wonderful to wake up with morning sunlight reflecting off the water." "Yes," the young woman agreed, "especially with a handsome man who's so attentive. Getting out of bed becomes quite difficult. If this is the guy who picked you up after work on Thursday, then I can understand why that might be a problem," another woman said. "He looks a bit older than you, but he's obviously in excellent shape. He has all his hair and is quite good-looking. David is all that and more," the young woman offered, smiling broadly. "He's a really good man and very satisfying." Sarah's colleague immediately asked the question Sarah didn't want to consider. "You're not talking about David Thompson, are you? Do you know David?" asked the attractive blonde before adding, "You have to admit he's impressive. He's a great guy, but he used to be Sarah's husband," her colleague said quietly. "I think we should change the subject." "Don't be dramatic," Sarah insisted, leaning toward the young woman and extending her hand. I'm Dr. Sarah Thompson. I didn't catch your name. Amanda Foster. I heard his ex-wife was beautiful, but I thought he was probably biased by love, Amanda admitted. It turns out he didn't exaggerate. I hope you won't be upset that I'm living with David now. I certainly can't blame you or him for that matter, Sarah answered honestly. You're a beautiful young woman with an amazing figure. I can easily understand David's attraction to you. I'm surprised Jessica never mentioned you to me. I can't speak for Jessica, but I want to say you raised your daughter well. She's very intelligent, considerate, and beautiful like her mother. I really enjoy when she visits us, Amanda concluded. That evening, Sarah questioned Jessica during dinner. Why didn't you tell me your father has a beautiful girlfriend living with him? This is something that would interest me. Honestly, Mom, I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I know how you feel about Dad, Jessica replied. I'm still upset that you cheated on him, but I don't want to make you more miserable because of your poor choices. Amanda is actually good for Dad. He finally seems happy again. This may surprise you, but I'm glad to hear David is happy. He's a wonderful person and deserves to be with a woman who loves him, even if it's not me, Sarah responded. I don't think she's directly in love with Dad, but she really cares about him. She's made it clear that her career comes first for the next few years. She says she wants to achieve great success in marketing. Are you going to start dating, Mom? Do you keep in touch with your conference friend? Do you think you could have a relationship with him? Jessica asked. Ryan is not someone I would seek for a relationship, Sarah admitted. He's superficial, somewhat rude, selfish, and vain. I never considered it anything more than a foolish distraction. Turned out he made my life hell, though I knew what I was risking. I shouldn't blame him for my weakness. Are you interested in anyone? Jessica asked. You're still beautiful. I've noticed how some fathers and teachers look at you and go out of their way to be polite at school events. Honestly, I think David has ruined me for other men, Sarah replied with a sad smile. The reason for our divorce is known to most people in our community. It makes women sympathize with your father and men view me as available. It might have been easy for Ryan, but I won't repeat that mistake. I just don't understand how you could cheat on Dad if you love him so much, Jessica said, puzzled. He always treated you with love and respect. Something went wrong in my thinking, Sarah admitted. I've asked myself this question countless times. I think I started taking your father for granted. I knew he loved me, and I became overconfident in that love. This somehow led to my experimenting with another man, maybe because I knew I had a reliable man at home. David was my anchor. He was always there for me. I foolishly believed he would always be there, that I could stray a little and he would never know, and my devoted husband would still be waiting at home. I pray that when you're ready to start a family, you'll find a man like David and use my experience as a cautionary tale. Never take more than you give in a relationship. Be faithful, dedicated, and honest. If you're considering something that could harm your relationship, discuss it with your partner. I've shown you what happens when you lie and cheat. Sometimes Sarah would encounter Amanda during lunch. She was surprised by how much she genuinely liked this woman. She also felt embarrassed that she anxiously awaited any news about David. Jessica was reluctant to tell Sarah too much about her father. As his daughter, she couldn't be privy to some of the more personal aspects of his life. Amanda, however, willingly discussed David with her friends. Sarah, it's obvious you still love David, Amanda remarked one day while the two women were having lunch. He never says anything negative about you, but it's clear you hurt him deeply. I'm not here to judge you, but I have to say I would never cheat if I were in a committed relationship. I find it hard to believe you did this. Everything I see and hear from you suggests you love and respect him. I hope you'll remember this when passion fades and you're caught up in daily routine, Sarah replied thoughtfully. I lost my way and paid the price, Sarah continued. Love isn't always about excitement and romantic getaways. Sometimes it's about deciding when to service the water heater or what color to paint the guest room. Everything becomes routine, but that's normal. David is an honest businessman, a caring and loyal friend, and an excellent father. I will always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife can. I learned my lesson, perhaps too late. I told David last night that I'm accepting a position in Denver and will be leaving in 2 weeks, Amanda said. This is an incredible opportunity for me at a major marketing firm. I told him from the beginning that I prioritize my career, but I can see my news upset him. I'm telling you this so you know what he's going through and maybe can help him if he becomes depressed. He's a truly great guy. He's just not my forever person. I'm sure he'll miss you tremendously, Sarah began with a small smile. David doesn't do anything impulsively. If he invited you to live with him, it means he holds you in very high regard as a person, beyond just your beauty. At the same time, he's a resilient person. I tested his strength and he survived. He'll miss you, but he's quite a catch, and I doubt he'll be alone for long. Yes, that's why I'm giving you this information first, Amanda replied with her own smile. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Only a week had passed when David's business partner, Robert Chun, asked Sarah to meet him for lunch at the bistro. The place was crowded, but they found a small corner table. After the usual pleasantries, Robert explained his reason for requesting the meeting. You know that biotech portfolio David acquired last year? The one focused on cardiac medical devices? I have buyers willing to pay almost $4 million for our stake. David bought into these companies for practically nothing through his early-stage investment strategy. The profit would be enormous. Your third would be over $1 million. David said those companies had real potential and would eventually be very valuable. Is he planning to sell our position? Sarah asked, wondering why she was part of this discussion. That's the problem, Robert replied. He says he thinks the fund will benefit more from a long-term hold strategy. He wants to reinvest the dividends and wait for the companies to get FDA approval and go public. He's talking about a 5 to 10-year timeline. That sounds like David, Sarah admitted with a smile, thinking about how strategic and intelligent he was. I'm sure he's done the analysis, and his plan will be more profitable long-term. What's the issue? I think we need to take quick profits by selling now. Planning 5 to 10 years ahead is great, but I'd like to get the money today. You own a third of Thompson Investment Group, I own a third. Together, we could force David to accept the offer and distribute our shares of the profits. David won't get hurt. Hell, he'll get over $1 million in cash to soothe any hurt feelings, Robert proposed. Sarah felt her anger rising as she listened to Robert's proposal. Are you asking me to betray David's trust? You think money means more to me than David's feelings? Let me tell you something. David would view this as a complete and utter betrayal by his ex-wife and business partner. This is the worst thing you could do to him. Worse than his wife sleeping with some young doctor at medical conferences? Robert taunted. You're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him. He divorced your cheating ass. This is a chance to get some payback and make good money at the same time. That faithful wife act won't work. We both know that description doesn't fit you. I betrayed David, and I admit it, Sarah replied with controlled fury. I was stupid, selfish, and weak, but I never wanted to hurt him. He's better than both of us and deserves much better business partners than either of us will ever be. That's why I will never betray him again. I'd rather lose every penny than hurt David like that. I proved I was a terrible wife, and you just proved you're a terrible friend and partner. David will control my share of the company as long as I live. In fact, I'll be updating my will to ensure David gets my share when I die. You should know better than to question his business judgment, Sarah stated angrily, standing and placing money on the table to cover her uneaten lunch. Then she looked directly into Robert's eyes. Please don't try to steal from him too. Almost a month later, Sarah opened her door to find David standing on her porch. She was genuinely surprised. David had carefully avoided her since that morning she'd returned from the disastrous conference. David, please come in. Is everything okay? Jessica is at her friend Lucy's house if you're looking for her, Sarah said, surprised by how excited she felt about David's presence. I'm here to talk if you have time, David began, entering the house that had been his home for over 10 years. Do you have a few minutes? If you're busy, I can try another time. I'm not busy at all, Sarah answered quickly. I just made coffee. Would you like to sit in the kitchen? I appreciate you welcoming me so readily, David said, accepting his coffee mug. You always made excellent coffee. When we first married, I didn't even know how to make it properly, Sarah answered with a gentle smile. It took me quite a while to get it right. I didn't marry you for your coffee. You had other qualities that I found much more attractive, David replied. I've never heard you call them qualities, but I remember you calling them my secret weapons several times, Sarah said, still smiling. Yeah, you had some powerful advantages, and I was helpless to resist you, David admitted. Amanda must have you completely captivated, Sarah said carefully. She's definitely got some serious appeal. I appreciate how well you treated Amanda. She thinks you're a remarkable person. Her opinion of you is one of the reasons I'm here. A couple of weeks ago, one of her marketing colleagues overheard your conversation with Robert at lunch. Amanda mentioned it before leaving for Denver. She believes your loyalty and integrity were exceptional. I have to agree. After how I handled the divorce, you still firmly rejected Robert's proposal. Many women whose husbands divorced them so quickly would want revenge or at least some payback. I would never do that to you, David, Sarah said earnestly. I know how hard you work on your investments and how much they mean to you. I also know you'll ensure that biotech portfolio generates much more income than Robert is seeking. He's foolish to doubt your judgment. I appreciate your confidence. Amanda helped me realize that you are my partner, even though I've been running the business as if it were entirely mine. I need to give you the opportunity to express your opinions and state your preferences, David said. If you want to sell this portfolio and split the profits, I'll agree. Robert is pressuring me to sell. I suspect he needs cash flow. He believes if we sell these investments, each of us could take over $1 million out of the business. Would you like that too? I think you probably have a strategy for this portfolio that will generate good returns for the company and benefit for the community, Sarah replied with obvious pride. You were never interested in quick profits. You always wanted to improve healthcare while making good money simultaneously. You have something planned for these companies, don't you? I've been negotiating partnerships with several of the cardiac device startups to develop technology that could revolutionize heart surgery, David admitted. It won't be as immediately profitable as the quick sale Robert's pushing, but it will generate steady returns and create jobs in medical technology, plus establish us as leaders in healthcare investment. Given your expertise in cardiac surgery, your insights could be invaluable to these partnerships. I suspected it would be something like that, Sarah answered with slight satisfaction. You're an excellent businessman, but you also invest in society's future. That's what distinguishes you from people like Robert. Robert thinks it's better to grab quick profits. I disagree with that approach. As I understand it, he approached you with his idea and you declined. I trust you completely, David. You've never given me reason not to trust your judgment. I will support your business decisions unconditionally, Sarah promised. This probably sounds strange coming from someone you know you can't trust, but it's true. I was thinking about how Robert is trying to interfere with your business vision. It occurred to me that we should buy him out. If he needs money, he'll probably listen to a reasonable offer. He'll be satisfied, and you'll be able to run the business according to your vision, Sarah reasoned. I've considered it, but I don't have the liquid capital to make it happen, David agreed. We could sell this townhouse, Sarah suggested. I can get a nice 2-bedroom condo for Jessica and me. Over the years, we've accumulated substantial equity. The house is nearly paid off and you've made significant improvements. This should provide enough for us to buy out Robert's share. Now that we're divorced, this is your home. Are you prepared to sell it and invest the money in the business? David asked incredulously. I don't know how quickly I can close deals on these medical technology partnerships. I can't guarantee you'll recover your investment soon, or even that you'll recover it at all. Do I look worried? Sarah said with a light laugh. Don't forget I was married to you for 15 years. You'll get everything back with interest. If for some reason you don't, that's acceptable. I owe you more than money could ever repay. Money will never compensate for my disrespect, but it will free you from Robert's interference. I'll agree to this if you come and live at the lake house with Jessica and me, David said, then quickly added. You would have your own room with a private bathroom. It turned out quite nice. I don't think that would work, Sarah answered sadly. It would complicate your personal life, not to mention dating and all the complications that would create for you. Sorry, I didn't consider your social life, David apologized. Of course, you wouldn't want to bring a gentleman to the house when your ex-husband lives there, especially someone like Ryan. That would be awkward. I don't date and I don't plan to start, Sarah replied. I stopped attending conferences and haven't spoken to Ryan since that terrible trip. You're the one who would face inconvenience. No woman wants to spend the night with you when your ex is sleeping in the next room. If I'm around, it will be extremely unlikely that you'll find a woman willing to move in with you, though I don't rule out the possibility. I've seen women fall for you. I divorced you because you slept with that man. Then I moved Amanda in with me. My behavior wasn't the best example for Jessica, was it? David asked rhetorically. My only excuse is that I was depressed and lonely. Another man had taken my wife from me, and my confidence was quite low. Amanda was able to restore it. I'm sorry I damaged your self-esteem. I wish none of this had ever happened, but I don't blame you for being with Amanda. She's a wonderful woman. You're a single man and can pursue any relationship you want, Sarah said, then added, I don't think I ever apologized properly for my behavior. It wasn't something you caused or deserved. This is entirely my responsibility. I truly messed up, and I am genuinely sorry for the pain and disruption I caused you. You really hurt me, Sarah. I was never unfaithful. I lived for you and Jessica. I went from having everything to feeling like a complete failure, David admitted. Amanda helped me understand that while I may not have been the perfect husband, I wasn't the reason you cheated. You could have told me if you were unhappy with our marriage or our intimacy or anything else. I would have tried to improve if I had known there were problems. I was just foolish, not unhappy. You were an excellent husband, a great father to Jessica, and a wonderful lover, Sarah said. I lost my way and deserve to be miserable. Sounds strange, but being miserable feels appropriate. I feel like I'm paying for my mistakes. Would you at least come and see the lake house? David asked. I'd like to show it to you and get your opinion. I incorporated some of the ideas we discussed over the years into the renovation. I think you'll approve. Jessica has a soccer game in 2 hours. Could I take you up on this offer another time? Sarah asked. Let's look at it before the game. We can drive there together, David suggested. Then I'll bring you back here. Aren't you concerned that people will think we're reconciling if we arrive together? You usually sit as far from me as possible, Sarah noted. Yeah, I was being somewhat petty, but in my defense, you had left me emotionally in our marriage. You couldn't expect me to be friendly toward you, David said. Actually, you were much kinder to me than I would have been to you if the situation were reversed, Sarah admitted. Your settlement offer was far too generous. We both know it. It looks like that generosity is paying dividends, David said thoughtfully. Here we are discussing selling the house to buy out Robert's share. I still find it hard to believe you're willing to do this. Honestly, David, you can have anything of mine that you want. You've always been honest with me. I know you won't harm me, even though I deserve it, Sarah said. Let me show you the lake house, David suggested, changing the subject to give himself time to process his emotions. The drive to Lake Geneva took about 2 hours. During the trip, they talked carefully about Jessica's school performance and David's business developments, avoiding personal topics. When they arrived at the expanded cabin, Sarah was genuinely impressed. While David toured the house with Sarah, she admired the renovation work. You really did an incredible job. Jessica's room is quite spacious, and she has her own bathroom with a view of the lake. This is every teenage girl's dream, Sarah remarked. When David showed Sarah the second bedroom, she felt it was time to address the obvious issue. It's a lovely room with another beautiful bathroom, but I can't stay here, David. It would be too painful for me to see you every day and remember what I've lost. We'll sell the townhouse and I'll rent a condo. I'll be fine. We should leave soon for Jessica's game, Sarah said. Let me show you the master bedroom, David urged. It's larger than the others. I can see that. It's beautiful. You did an excellent job, as always, Sarah praised, looking around the spacious bedroom with its panoramic lake view. That's why your business is so successful. You have an eye for detail. Would you stay with Jessica and me if you had this room? David asked suddenly. I would still see you every day, and I don't think I could handle that, Sarah answered sadly. I didn't mean it would be yours alone, David explained nervously. I thought maybe we could share it. Sarah raised her eyebrows, studying David's face carefully. Are you asking me to share your bed? Ever since the day I discovered your infidelity and left home, I felt terrible. I miss you so much that sometimes it physically hurts. You made a huge mistake, but I was intimate with Amanda for months. That softened your betrayal somewhat, but didn't eliminate it. I'm wondering if we can get past all this pain and try to be together again. I won't be your victim, Sarah answered firmly. If you want to punish me further, I won't participate. If I move in with you, I will be completely faithful and expect the same from you. No more young beauties in your bed. It will be only me there, or I'll be gone immediately. I've worked hard to rebuild my self-respect, and I intend to maintain it. I love you, David, but you have to be completely committed, or I'm leaving. I understand, David said softly. I want you back, Sarah. I want our family back. Amanda helped me realize that what we had was worth fighting for. I'm willing to try if you are. Are you sure about this? Sarah asked, tears forming in her eyes. Because I can't go through losing you again. If we do this, it has to be real. It's real, David confirmed, reaching for her hand. We both made mistakes. Mine was giving up on us too quickly. Yours was, well, you know what yours was, but maybe we can start over. They drove back to Chicago in comfortable silence, both lost in thought about the possibility of rebuilding their lives together. No one was more surprised than Jessica when her parents walked into the soccer field arm in arm. She hurried to them during halftime to speak privately. Mom, Dad, does this mean that Jessica began, but David smiled and nodded before she could finish her question. Jessica hugged her mother tightly as she whispered in her ear, "Welcome home, Mom. I love you, but don't ever cheat on Dad again. I have a friend whose older sister is even more beautiful than Amanda, and she's in college now. I promise you, sweetheart," Sarah whispered back, "never again." 6 months later, the family had settled into their new life at the Lake Geneva house. Sarah had sold the Lincoln Park townhouse, and they had successfully bought out Robert Chen's share of Thompson Investment Group. David's biotech investments were performing exceptionally well, with 2 of the cardiac device companies preparing for IPO launches. Sarah had reduced her surgical schedule to 3 days a week and now served as a medical consultant for David's healthcare investments. Her expertise proved invaluable in evaluating new opportunities and partnerships. Most importantly, they had both learned that a marriage worth saving was worth the hard work of rebuilding trust. Sarah never again took David's love for granted, and David learned to communicate more openly about his needs and concerns. As they sat on their deck one evening, watching the sunset over Lake Geneva, Jessica practicing her driving in the driveway with David's supervision, Sarah reflected on how close she had come to losing everything that truly mattered. "Any regrets?" David asked, as if reading her thoughts. "Only one," Sarah replied, taking his hand. "That it took almost losing you to realize how lucky I was to have you." "Well," David said with a smile, "maybe we both needed to learn some lessons about what we really value." Their marriage wasn't perfect. No marriage ever is. But it was honest now, built on a foundation of hard-earned wisdom and genuine appreciation for what they had fought to rebuild together. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to